Hi folks, this is Ela, and I'm going to talk about shadows by special request from my students. Shadows are not as hard as you think they are. Our brains want to recognize them. Our brains will fill in the gaps. If you put a dark area next to an object, you are automatically going to think it's a shadow. It's going to happen. Here we go. I got proof right here. You see that? Here's a collage I did of a couple of moths, and you can see how it looks like there's a shadow behind the moth shape. And all I did was create a stencil of each moth, and then I cut out the main color, and then using a darker page in a magazine, I cut that same shape out a second time, and then I glued it down, made it slightly askew, and it looks like there's a shadow, right? I'm not even painting. I'm just using what I could find, and I've created an effective shadow. Here you can see a classic light and shadow lemon like I teach in my classes, and you can follow a video that shows you how to do this process. And this is actually a very challenging thing that we do. And most shadows are actually a lot simpler to paint. They really are just blobs. Here we go. Here are some blobby shadows. I painted this kind of brownish color, and then I took this color of the sky and I literally just made little blobby shapes that looked similar to the one in the photograph, but not exactly, and it immediately reads like shadows. It is that simple, guys. Here's an example where I use blue again. And oftentimes I will paint a picture and I'll just know in my mind that the light is coming from this direction, which means the shadows are on this side. So then I put all the shadows on the side, and it's deeper underneath the objects. I have used the sky color as the shadow color. You can tell it's also a sunny day because I chose to put yellow in the places where the sun is shining. It just makes it feel even more warm and exciting, and it kind of plays with the contrast between warm and cool. Here's a really dramatic example of a shadow. This painting is by a student of mine named Ruth Halpern. She did this painting at night with a very intense spotlight, and you can tell because the white is so white and then the shadows are so dark. I'm pretty sure she did them with black ink, and it has just a very intense, stark feeling. You can see the light is coming from above and maybe a little bit from behind, so the shadows are being cast in front of the object slightly. And the shadows are really a character. They're playing a part in this picture. There's a little bit of a story between the shadows and the pods themselves. Here's another painting where I'm choosing to have really intense, deep shadows. But I'm not going for full black like in this one. I want it to feel like it's outdoors. So instead, I'm mixing colors. I'm mixing this sort of red with this blue, which is a granulating blue. And these shadows are, and once again, a very active part of the composition. It's part of what makes this picture interesting. Here's a painting where you can hardly see the shadows at all. They're there, but they're rather faint. They're darker underneath the bigger objects. They're lighter around these long skinny objects, the telephone pole and the tree. And the lightness suggests that there's light reflecting from all directions. It's less about the shadows and more about all the stuff that's going on. This is a busy picture. I don't really need those shadows to do as much. So you get to choose. In this picture, the shadows in the trees are letting you know that these are leaves. I'm not drawing every single individual leaf. Instead, I'm just letting my brush go dot, 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 building up layers of little dots, creating shadow and depth, and making the trees look like big three-dimensional complex objects. And I'll get into kind of a meditative state, just building up all those dots with slightly different shades of green. And it also helps draw your attention to this pink, right? Because pink is a version of red, and red and green are complements. And so your eye goes to the pink object, and these green trees are sort of framing the picture. I hope you found this helpful. I hope this wasn't too overwhelming. I hope it makes you braver and that you actually try painting shadows on your own.